Okay, everyone, welcome back to a new episode of WhiteFlag Warriors podcast. My name is Johnny McCoy. I'm your host. I'm also the CEO and founder of our company, which is it revolves around an app for your phone. It's a safe, anonymous place for you to instantly and anonymously connect with somebody else who's going through the same issues that you're going through. And when I say issues, I mean mental health issues, struggles and challenges, background stuff that's going on, that's still nagging you from your childhood. You can connect with somebody who's been through childhood trauma, who's currently dealing with alcoholism, or like me, PTSD, anxiety, depression. Let's see, I also have a little bit of agoraphobia that I'm starting to get over a little bit. And I'm in recovery for Xanax as of yesterday or a couple of days ago. I've been 5 years since I went to my treatment facility to get off of Xanax. So,
Awesome. Congratulations.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, I've met a couple of people on the app who are in benzo withdrawal and you're in benzo withdrawal for a long time. So, if you're struggling, or if you just feel a little bit of loneliness, or if you want to help out, if you get on the app and you're on there for somebody else and you're providing them with some temporary relief by talking to them about their issues and struggles, you're actually going to be healing yourself as well. And that's the point. So get on over there, download the app, and listen to some more of our episodes. We've got wonderful people. We've had some amazing guests, and no more amazing than our current guest today. His name is Dr. J. Mack, and he is a physician. I'll let him tell you a little bit about his background. But I've met J. Mack just recently this summer, and I've actually hung out with him personally, which is a claim to fame, because J. Mack is what you would call a medfluencer. This guy, he's got a really big following, and it's not because he does, quirky stuff or pranks on people. It's because he provides some really insightful, content that shows what goes on behind the scenes in the ER. There's some comic relief in there to show off his personality, but most importantly, he's got that great hair. And that's why I wear a hat, because my hair is slowly turning gray. So,
bro, that's okay, man. We'll help you get that swoop going right there. I saw you had a little mini swoop today, bro. You're almost there.
I know, man. I know. My wife's going to make fun of me for that too. She was like, "Are you going to wear a hat today? Or are you going to go straight back?" Because I was like, J Mack's got the best hair, man. He's got the best hair. She was like, "Well, don't feel self-conscious. You just wear yours too." But no. So J Mack, yeah. So I've interviewed a couple of influencers on here, not a medfluencer yet, but every time I have, including Brave Dave, our own in-house, he's like, "Listen, man, we can't talk about my real name." So are we going with J Mack today? Or
man, you can go with my real Dr. J Mack Slaughter Jr. MD. We can go the full ridiculous name. I am both Dr. J Mack, and in the hospitals, my patients know me as Dr. Slaughter.
Oh my God, that's awesome. That's great, man. That's real. Great. So tell us a little bit about your background, kind of where is it you're working now, and title and all that good stuff.
So I'm an emergency medicine physician. I work in North Texas in ERs, fairly high volume, see some really sick people, see a lot of mental health issues in the emergency department. That's one of the things that draws me toward WhiteFlag, because clearly the system is broken and we need exactly what you guys are providing. But I grew up in a family of performers and entertainers, and I never thought about becoming a doctor. I was 3 years old when I got on stage with my two older sisters, and we're singing and dancing around on stage and stuff. And then I did musical theater. I was in a boy band, and I did TV and film. And then after all of this is, kind of done, I'm like, okay, I'm 21. I'm making a good living, I'm setting myself up for the future, but something is missing. There's something missing. Yeah. I need a challenge. I need to help people. What does that look like? And I decided to become an emergency doctor, and I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah, man. A jack of all trades, somebody who's like feels as if the universe is pulling you in multiple different ways, but something is missing. I feel that. I feel that as a attorney in recovery, somebody who, was born to be in politics, as they used to tell me. I always felt like there was something missing, and there was something else I should be doing. I just didn't know what that was. And I think I found it, because the itch and that kind of like background, like there's something else out there for you. You keep looking, has vanished. Do you feel the same way about practicing medicine, or is there a next a next step from that?
Well, I thought it was just going to be medicine and that was it. But, a couple of years into it, I'm making a paycheck for the first time in 10 years since I was an actor.
Yeah.
And I have this beautiful family, but something was missing, and it was nobody's fault. It wasn't my fault. It was my wife or my kids. There was something that was missing. And that was the fact that I grew up my whole life until I was 21. I was performing and I was entertaining and I was communicating with the masses in one way or another. And my buddy 2 years ago started pushing me to start posting on TikTok when everybody was, going through the very early stages of COVID, and there was so much misinformation and confusion out there, and nobody trusted big organization. And he was like, "You're seeing what it's like in the ER on a daily basis. Just talk about it. Just tell people about it, and communicate in just a natural, normal way that we know that you can do when you're on camera." And I started doing it, and that's when I started feeling complete. And now I'm at that point where I'm just like,
awesome.
Oh my gosh, yes, I have everything that
fulfillment.
I feel like I was raised to do for the first 20 years, and then everything that I felt called to do for 10 years after, and it's just all fused, and I am whole now, and it feels awesome.
Yeah, and people mistake that performance gene for like, okay, this person wants to be in the spotlight, they want to be famous. It's more than that, though. It's the ability to have a platform for people to be able to hear what you have to say, and to see your soul, and to kind of see what kind of person you are and what kind of person is actually in the ER. Because people have had bad. I mean, I have Crohn's disease. I've been to the doctor once a month, every month for like the past 2 years. And I've run into some very, very bad situations with some physicians who were either just blown out, too tired, to take the time with me, or, just I've had some run-ins, as everybody does in every profession. And to see you behind the scenes, it just kind of humanizes the entire profession in a way that's been it's been helpful to me. And I know it's helpful to, your millions of followers as well, man. But yeah, I, when I first saw some of your content, and then I met you at the Medfluencers conference, which we'll talk about in a second, I thought to myself, man, this guy needs to be on like Survivor or something like that. Like, have you ever thought about applying for like a Survivor?
The only way I'm going on Survivor is if I go on with my man Johnny McCoy. Let's do it.
That's Survivor's a one-person show.
Oh yeah. No. But we'll make a deal. We'll make a deal ahead of time. If one of us wins, we split it down the middle.
We'll be secret. We'll be burying on
that would be sick, actually. That would be a good move. Has anybody gotten caught doing that? That would be really smart. To have like a secret alliance?
I don't know. I bet. I assume that there's been some people on some of these shows that knew each other beforehand. But yeah, the only reason I brought it up is because after my arrest and that picture that I had a couple of pictures get floated around. I ended up getting contacts reach out to me and say, "Hey, you want to be on Survivor? We hear you talk about your mom. You want to be on Amazing Race." And so now when I meet like a doctor who's like charismatic and full of life and good looking and young, I'm like, man, that guy, somebody needs to find this guy and put him out there one of these big shows.
Let's go Survivor.
But you've been found, bro. You've been found. I mean, on your total platform, what is your reach, as they like to call it? Our listeners are all fascinated by this kind of
stuff. Yeah. Well, so my follower count is 750,000. But when there's certain videos that just like pop and like really connect with the masses very quickly, and it's cool how on platforms like TikTok you can have 10 followers, and if you have a video that just speaks to people, boom, it just blows out of the water. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. Everybody keeps telling me I got to get this TikTok, that app downloaded. But for me, prior to getting off of Xanax, I would have been a TikTok king. I would have been on it every day. I love the idea, man. I love, I used to make like short little videos that people liked a lot. And it wouldn't just be about, my background, which is like civil rights and injustice and what I saw as a criminal defense lawyer in the South and in the Murdoch case and all this crazy stuff. But yeah, what happens with people who get off of Xanax, you get into something you can get into something called protracted withdrawal. And for years, you experience anxiety. And if you put yourself in certain situations, it can be intense. And for me, one of those situations is putting information out there for people to critique and criticize.
Oh yeah.
Because after you post it, you're like, okay, I'm happy with it, but I want to go back and check. Everybody goes back and checks the comments. Some people read every single comment and every single.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It would drive me nuts, dude. It would drive me nuts.
But I would have to, not now. Now that I'm on the right medication, I would. So I got Dave talking to me about setting one up. You know, kind of talk about founder life and what I went through as a civil rights lawyer, criminal lawyer, and WhiteFlag and the people, awesome people that we've met. Excuse me, and most importantly, the changes that we're trying to make. In the mental health arena, which is something that you're doing as well. So I want to kind of talk. Yeah, you are. And it's awesome. That's why I like you so much, man, is because you're not just like some guy making videos and killing it in the emergency room. You got a wonderful family as well. You're actually looking back, down the road and saying, all right, this is what I experienced. This is what I saw needs change, and I'm coming back for it. And one of the things, I'm an entrepreneur. So when I see a good idea, I'm like, holy cow. And this Medfluencer thing, for you guys who are unfamiliar. So Dr. J. Mack and a group of physicians got together, and all of these people have all these physicians, and I think there's other people involved, not just physicians.
Correct.
They have other they have massive major followings, and then they use their network and their followers to make change. And I wasn't really sure what the Medfluencer thing was about until we sat down and there was a panel that popped up. I mean, the president of the American Medical Association. Yeah. There was a psychiatrist. She's a clinical psychologist, I think.
Clinical psychiatrist. Yeah, psychiatrist.
Yeah, clinical psychiatrist. Dr. J. Mack himself. And then Damon, who I met, who is like basically the guy who's in charge of certifications and stuff like that, or issues in
health policy as well. That's the guy. That's the guy who pushed through the Smoke-Free Illinois Act, which, like, can you imagine the power that Big Tobacco had? That was like fighting him at the time. He probably had death threats on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
All of the bars were coming after him as well. They thought nobody would want to go to the bars when you can't smoke. But it did the opposite, man. It brought people out that were staying away from the bars because they didn't want to be around the smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. And that guy is awesome. He was one of the first guys I talked to, and we talked for a long time. Very, very nice individual. Very cool. All these people are very cool. And then the rest of the invitees, they were in the audience along with myself and Brave Dave, and everybody was recording what was going on in the panel discussion. So you've got millions and millions of people hearing what this panel and this group of Medfluencers have to say. And what is it that you had to say? What was the main topic of the conference? Because I loved it. Once I realized what was going on, I was like, oh man, this is great. Take it to them.
Well, thank you for your support. Thank you for helping to make it happen. WhiteFlag, I asked WhiteFlag to help us. We needed some money to make this thing happen, to truly make a difference. And you guys did not hesitate. You guys were like, absolutely, we're going to sponsor you guys. We want to see this go through. And the purpose was to raise awareness for physician burnout in the medical field in general, and to start to troubleshoot, to identify the tangible factors leading to burnout that we can actually do something about, right? Because the easy thing to do is to say the problems with the system, we have no control over the system. Let's just throw up our hands and keep our heads down and get to retirement and then let the next generation take care of it. But that's not what we're going to do. We're going to tackle this thing head first, identify things that we do have control over, and do something about them. And we already did. We already had thousands and thousands of people email state medical boards asking them. So there's this one portion of credentialing applications. So when I go to reapply to be able to practice as a doctor, there's a question in roughly half of the states that asks about my mental health history that might go all the way back. I mean, in your entire life, in Alaska.
Depression in high school.
It does. Alaska asks, have you ever, at least in 2019, they hold their credentialing applications really close to the chest. They don't want people to see it because they don't want people to publicize stuff like this. But from 2019, Alaska asks, have you ever in your entire life suffered from, and then it lists all of these different mental health conditions. Not Is there something that is currently impairing your ability
Right.
to work as a physician and to help people? It's asking, have you, and one of the things on that list, in addition to depression, which is absurdly common, we both know that, it also asks, have you ever suffered from seasonal affective disorder? Which seasonal affective disorder, for people that don't know, is when you don't get enough sunlight. This is in Alaska. You don't get enough sunlight and your brain essentially reaches a state of depression. It's a physiological condition. It's like unavoidable if you don't get enough. And you were talking about Alaska, where some people get like max an hour worth of sunlight a day for months at a time. It's like, how is that any of your business?
Right.
And how is that going to affect doctors when it's time for them to seek treatment? What are they going to do?
So
not seek out treatment. It's a barrier. It's a barrier.
You just hit the nail on the head. What is the purpose of the question? What is the purpose of knowing whether or not somebody is currently dealing with or has dealt with in the past mental health issues? What are they? This is the stigma on the front lines. This is exactly what
their idea is. Their idea is they're going to be able to protect the public from this individual with mental health issues. Well, what percentage of the population has mental health issues? A significant, a huge portion, at least to some varying degree. And to make doctors think that they are not allowed to go out and seek treatment is one of the reasons why the suicide rate among U.S. physicians is nearly double that of the general population. And
which is insane. That is an insane factor.
It's so defeating to say that out loud. It breaks my heart to even say that out loud.
But there's other stats that are insane. Like 25% of all physicians are thinking about, I was listening in the panel and I was like, that is just,
it was something around 20. I think it was 25%. Yeah, 25%. No, 25% within 3 years plans on leaving their current practice, just leaving it.
Which is
maybe still being a doctor, but they're done with whatever they're doing. Whereas before, doctors would go decades and decades doing the exact same thing. And the public, the community, comes to depend on that individual. And when they're just so burnt out, they're like, I'm done. I got to do something else. It might be medicine. It might not, And then it was what was the other statistic? It was something like 33% of all medical workers in general. This is not even just doctors. In the next 12 months, plan to reduce their hours, which that's the one. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but then you multiply that by hundreds of thousands of medical workers across the country, and you have a very serious labor shortage on your hands.
We are experienced that during COVID. People were like, "Oh, yeah, there's not enough physicians out there because of COVID," and I'm going, "It's more than just COVID. It's
a systems problem."
Yeah. But I tell you, so it's just so infuriating to me that question, and the stigma that goes along with it, and it makes people afraid to seek care. Like if somebody knew that it was a possible question, and they wanted to be a physician one day, and they're like, hey, maybe I am not going to go get treatment or even talk to somebody, even talk to a therapist.
Right.
It's entry level.
Because that's the thing. Because the mental health issues are unavoidable, especially in training. All the crap that we go through in our terrible hours. You can't. If you can have any sort of exercise regimen and eat in any sort of like semblance of a healthy way, then you did a much better job than I did, because all that stuff went to the wayside for me. I'm working 30-hour shifts and I'm coming home and I'm passing out and I'm waking up 6 hours later, going back to the hospital again, and waking up with anxiety from the crap that I saw. Not even
can't practice anymore. Then, man, can't believe you just said you have anxiety, dude.
You're worthless to the professional. You're absolutely right. And it's not even just what you're experiencing from the tragedies that you see come into the hospitals that you're taking care of, but also just the toxicity of medical training, the bullying that I got. I had trauma surgeons harass me on a daily basis. It's completely absurd. And then to think, after experiencing all that stuff, that you're not allowed to go and talk to a medical professional. It's like, what do you think is gonna happen?
Yeah, sounds like my profession, the bullying with the lawyers and stuff, man. Golly. But yeah, I speaking of my profession, I'll go ahead and say, even though like it's like there's a rule in South Carolina that you can't say, like, you can't qualify yourself as one of the best, one of the top, one of all. But I don't care. I don't care. My track record, the people who hired me, and the notoriety that I got, it was clear that I was one of the biggest lawyers in South Carolina. And for those of you who don't know or haven't listened to the first couple of episodes, I was falsely arrested, and when I was in jail, I witnessed this guy take his own life, and it became this huge cover-up, and the police, they doctored the incident report. I was literally framed, and it took 4 years. I won my lawsuit, became a civil rights lawyer, and it was during my criminal practice. I became a criminal and civil rights lawyer. I was doing insurance at the time. It was during my criminal practice when people would sit across from me, and they would just be bawling, going, nobody believes me, blah, blah. And guess what? I would go, I do. And I have trauma from it. I have PTSD from it. And the reason that I was such a good lawyer is because I could personally relate to I could personally relate to every single juror. I could personally relate to why? Because we're all fucking suffering. All of us are going through stuff. It's just few of us are willing and able to talk about it for the same reasons that you're hearing, from you. But my stuff was so public. I mean, it was in the news that I had PTSD. It was in the news that, I was on, medication and stuff like that. So I just kind of said, all right, well, I mean, I'm just going to embrace it. And it made me into a lawyer or a professional who didn't just have a diploma on the wall and was like reading from books. I could personally relate to people and, give them a sense of peace. I've been through it. This is what's going to happen.
And that's what people want. People don't want machines. The way that we're accepted into law school, into med school, is how good are you at taking tests? But that's not what makes somebody a good lawyer and a good doctor. No. It's your ability to connect with other human beings.
Yeah. And I would love, if I ever met a psychologist who had been on Xanax, it would have changed my whole life. It would have, I would have saved me a suicide attempt for sure.
They can't say it. They can't say it.
They can't say that not only can they not say it, they can't go get treatment for it because it's not just sharing it to me. It's privately. They can't even do it because they're going to have to check that box on the damn certification. Right. Yeah. And that is just insane. If you could literally wear hi, my name is J Mack, and here's the stuff. I've had a broken leg. Guess what? You're allowed to say you've had a broken leg. Then goes, but as soon as the person in there, and a lot of this emergency room physicians deal with a lot of mental health issues. And the reason I know that, Dr. J. Mack Slaughter, is because I spent $6,000 per panic attack every year. I went to the hospital at least 3 times a year. And it was because panic attacks were not talked about. They weren't defined. I thought that I was dying. For those of you who don't know, panic attacks convince you that you're dying. For sure. You lose your breath. All of these thoughts go into your head.
Your heart is like pounding out of your chest.
Right. And if I went to an emergency room and Dr. J. Matt with his wonderful hair was sitting there and I walk in and he's going, hang on, man, don't worry, you're having a panic attack. I have them too. Oh my, I don't think I would have ever had to go back in the hospital ever.
Right.
But the fact was they would just they would up my dose. They would give me a Valium on top of my Xanax, and they would just let me go on my way. And there was no white flag to hop on between then and the next panic attack or anything. And so I'm just stuck with my discharge paperwork that just basically says anxiety. So, the fact that they limit our ability as patients on what our doctors can not only talk to us about from a personal standpoint, but also what our doctors have actually experienced on a personal. I mean, they're just trying to create robots in the hospital, and that's scary. Robots will never be able to place the physicians that I've had in my day or that I need for sure. And that's what Medfluencers is all about, trying to bring awareness to these issues. And you guys are doing it in such a unique way where the man, as people like to call it, I think, Laura was calling it the man, Dr.
The man. I love Dr. Laura Purdy.
Yeah, Dr. Purdy. That's right. And she and I were talking about it similarly because I'm after the man my whole life. I mean, I'm a little guy. I've been stomped on, but to hear that there are doctors who are also dealing with this situation where there's this overlord who says, you guys are great physicians, but if you have these certain issues that you've had in your past, now, present, future, you're not qualified, or you may not be safe is the word. You may not be safe for the public. Which is just, it could not be a better example of the stigma.
Right.
It's crazy, man. So what's next for the Medfluencers after you guys get some real change in that?
We're dreaming big, man. We're dreaming big. We have multiple possible future events. We had a ton of big medical influencers reach out after they saw what we did with this first one, and they were like, we want to be a part of this too. And so we're just going to dream as big as we can. We had people with, ins in very high political places that want to utilize us as well to be able to get really important messages out to the public. And so there's going to be a Restoring Wellness 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0, and
nice.
I look forward to the future, man. Because
WhiteFlag, and we'll be there. The Medfluencer conference, because I thought it was so awesome, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. So
cool.
It was like this red carpet event, and all the medical influencers got together. They did the red carpet. Then there was the panel, and we're at this like famous Michelin star chef's house, and he cooks us. I don't even know if "cook's" the right word. It was one of the best meals I'd ever had in my whole life.
Same here, dude. Same here. I felt guilty. I was like, we're here to do good for the medical community, but I feel selfish because this is damn good.
Fabio, what's his last name?
Viviani. Yeah.
Yes. So this
He's
guy,
on Top Chef and everything.
I know. I looked him up afterwards. Yeah. Awesome. I'm tagging him in it. And then I realized at the very end, he's got this franchise that he and his wife started during COVID for these desserts.
Oh my God, they're so delicious, dude. Jars.
I still feel it. I could feel the cookies and cream in the back of it. They were unbelievable.
Dude, the banana pudding one was just like,
oh my God. Unbelievable. If I remember the name, I will. We'll probably put it up on the screen or something.
Jars. Jars by Fabio Viviani.
There you go. The Medfluencers with their 40 million followers all took photos of the jars, which looked unbelievable. And they're putting them out to their people. It was like literally, it was one of the smartest, most ingenious, the entire thing. And I'm, as an entrepreneur and a marketing guy, the entire thing was just so well done. It was so well thought out, and you utilized you guys' backgrounds, your networks, like to a T. I was incredibly when I left there. I was like, I call my wife, who's WhiteFlag COO. I was like, we got to step our game up.
Dude, let's do an event, bro. I will help you. Let's go.
We're definitely going to do one.
I would love that. There's nothing that there is magic. There is magic in the air when you bring a bunch of big creators together. You barely even have to put any guidelines on it. You basically just have to be like, okay, well, this is the important thing that we're doing. This is the reason we're all coming together. Because the beginning of it, how it started was, basically a friend of mine had that chef's experience at
I met your friend, by the way. That guy's awesome.
Yeah, John. He's such a cool guy.
That's my guy.
He had that experience. He's like, I want to connect you with Fabio. Fabio said he didn't know any doctors. And he was like, maybe you guys are both influencers. You guys can hang out and make some content. And I was like, that sounds cool. Maybe I'll bring multiple influencers together. Yeah. But then it seemed very superficial. I was like, I don't want to just come together just to get views and likes and follows. I want to do something with it. We have power. When you're rolling deep with tens of millions of followers in one room, there is power to that. So how can you harness that and positively impact the community? And we figured out a way to do that. And we should do that with WhiteFlag, man, because I think that, again, you bring together creators. Creators going to create. That's just what they do. So you just give them a little focus. We're doing this because of WhiteFlag. We're going to help more people know about WhiteFlag and download WhiteFlag and benefit from that.
No, the call, the battle cry, the call that you guys had, which was burnout, which I'm a founder and a civil rights lawyer. I've experienced burnout before. It is insane. Mm-hmm. You can't move. You can't. You get an email and it's 4 hours later, you're still God. It is insane. You're talking to a guy who's hyper. hyper focused, and I'm like, to-do list check off, like very successful, in my professional life. And, when you hit that wall of burnout, it's scary, and that it should be discussed as much as you guys did. But the certification question that you guys are trying to get rid of,
gotta
that was
go.
awesome.
It's gotta go.
I mean, like when you guys were talking and I started listening to some of the panelists, I was just like, man, I could like see the man who like makes these questions, on your certificate. I could just see him getting tagged in the jaw and tagged in the nose. It was crazy. And I just learned so much, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, what can we do in my profession as a lawyer? Could we get lawyers? But it's just totally different, man, because in our profession, we are pitted against each other. And it's not just prosecutor, defense lawyer, or plaintiff. I mean, I have been in some mediations where I left more traumatized than I did in any of the fights I had growing up or anything. I mean, it is.
What are some big? Are there some big issues in the world of law? I'm thinking in my brain. I'm like, can we bring together like a significant group of like big online lawyers with social media reach and online doctors, and kind of together figure out how to attack certain issues as well? I mean, we'll bring awareness too to the legal field.
So for one,
join forces, baby.
so for one, I was held without bond in South Carolina, because in South Carolina, if you arrest somebody, and then this is the police, and then don't turn in their paperwork, you get shifted in jail. You can stay there for 3 days, 72 hours without a bond hearing, without a hello, without a when you're getting out. And that's what happened to me. Nobody told me about the 72-hour rule. So they didn't turn my paperwork in on time as my punishment. They knew that we were going to be dismissed, whatever. So what they do is they go, and then you're held for 3 days in this hellhole without a bond. And then you get the bond hearing on the last hour on the third day. And it was during the extended stay where the guy, took his life in front of me, and, all hell broke loose. And so it became a factor of the lawsuit. But I mean, there are tons of rules like that all over the country, that, I mean, it would take 20 law influencers meetings, but it would be really difficult to get lawyers on the same page. I'm just telling you. But I will say this:
pitted against each other all the time.
Yes, and it would just be a pissing contest over who got to speak the most and whose followers the first and all that. Very toxic profession through and through, and it's meant to be that way. It's meant to be that way. But the reality is, if we did an event like that or something where we could promote White Flag, the message of White Flag is just as strong as what you were trying to say. Because I mean, I am somebody who has been abused by authority, for real abused by authority, and I've seen how powerful and how lifeless and how optionless you can be if you are the target. If the authority or government in my situation comes in and says, okay, we're coming after this person for this reason, you are a vast underdog. And so when I created White Flag, people look at it, but they don't see the underlying thing. White Flag is totally authority free. It's totally government free. We don't have any certifications. We don't have we're not HIPAA.
You're truly anonymous.
We're truly anonymous, and we have the same exact model as Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And now you might cringe and go, "Oh, those are," but we're healthy. When you get on our social network, and that's what White Flag is, a social network. When you get on our social network and you leave, you feel better about yourself always. I won't say always, because there are one-offs, but the reviews that we're seeing and the conversations that, people are telling us about, it's a social network with great mental health benefits. So if I could get a group of, influencers together, it would be to tell the public, look, we don't need all these people in our treatment telling us that you can't do this and you can't do that. We need each other. We need each other to start out with. And then eventually you bring in resources and these other aspects of treatment.
And I love that it's a safe space. It's a safe space to talk. You can say what is actually happening in your mind and in your immediate, you can
say the S word.
You can say the S word, and your words are not going to get scraped. You're not going to wake up with like police at your doorstep.
You
You
said
can
it.
be honest. You can be
Right.
honest in that moment with yourself, and you're safe. You're safe.
Right. And for me, having PTSD, I would say when people are like, what's the number one thing besides anxiety, of course, it's hypervigilance. So you have a creator of an app who made it, and I have hypervigilance, who made it so that you don't feel like people are seeing what you're writing, that if you say, I'm feeling suicidal today, guess what? That's totally fine that you're feeling suicidal today. It's a symptom. It's a symptom. It's the same thing as somebody with nausea from Crohn's disease. It's a symptom. So if you say, I'm feeling suicidal today, the data, all of the clinical studies show, if you mention how you're actually feeling, if you're truthful about feeling suicidal, about feeling burnout, about feeling depressed, you are almost emphatically 95% less chance that you're actually going to follow through with something that harms yourself. If you just, so White Flag is just a place where you can start this conversation, where hey, I listened to that podcast. They said they're not listening to what I'm saying. They're not going to send somebody to my door. It's totally okay for you to be feeling suicidal. I want you.
And the only time, if I'm right here, the only time that you guys do intervene is if there is toxic behavior on the app, because you can't keep people from being jerks. But if somebody is consistently like harassing others or trying to dox or anything negative,
they get one. So we rely, just like on Facebook and Instagram and all, we rely on our users to call our attention to things, except for those companies, they suspend you for a week or whatever. On our app, we suspend you indefinitely. And we use your phone number. So you can't just go get a new email or whatever. You got to go get a whole new phone and come back. And then you get one opportunity where one person brings us in.
I mean, I think that's great, because at the end of the day, as long as the reasons behind taking that person off of the platform are sound, I mean, you're dealing with a fragile population. So to be naturally selected for people who are truly suffering, and then to have somebody who's toxic on there and is trying to, prolong their suffering or deepen their suffering is, bye, get out of here.
And the interesting thing is none of the stuff is public. So on Twitter, everybody can see what you're saying between somebody, unless you go in their DMs. On Facebook, everything. So that's where trolls really get their juice, is they see other people, and then more people say you're a dick, and they're reading them, and they feel good about disrupting.
You feel empowered.
On White Flag, you got to be really, really sick to go one-on-one anonymously messing with, and we just haven't seen it. Knock on wood.
That's so great. I love that.
Yeah, it's like it's not an environment conducive to bullies. And what
you're not giving somebody a megaphone to like be a jerk in the crowd to somebody that's famous.
Right.
One-on-one.
And so, I mean, dude, we have people who report people for saying anything. It doesn't have to be like over the top bullying, but we just haven't seen people step in and, try to like really, really mess somebody up with the bullying. And it's because of the ambiance, right? If any of y'all have ever been in a peer support group, now I'm talking about AA, NA, I've been a PTSD. I ran PTSD and anxiety support groups. When you walk in, there's coffee, it's quiet, everybody's scared shitless. Nobody, overly wants to be there. Everybody wants to get better, but nobody, you're going, you're being, you're moving yourself. You're having to almost force yourself to go to these types of things until you get into a groove, and then it feels better and you're always going to them. But when you walk in the door, the first thing you want to do is turn around and leave. That's what I've always wanted to do when I go into a support group. And so when we designed White Flag, we designed it just like a support group. We didn't want people to come in and then just go feel overwhelmed or feel attacked or feel bullied or feel like judgment. And so that's exactly what White Flag is. So
I love how simple it is.
Yeah,
it's so simple.
Exactly.
It's so approachable. There's not like a thousand different things. Oh, come here and do this. Oh, click on this. Oh, do that. It's like you are here to communicate with other individuals that are experiencing similar things. This is how you do it.
And the list is right in your face. You don't have to go searching for nobody.
I love it.
You can, if you download White Flag, you can be talking to somebody else who's going through the same things as you within a matter of, 30 seconds. And that's not available on other apps. On other apps, and this is again our sort of battle cry on other apps, they train you on how to talk to other people. Now imagine you are a veteran who did 5 tours in Fallujah, like they got my roommate at one of my facilities. Did 5 tours initially in Fallujah and kind of stayed over there for the rest. you got traumatic brain injury and all these other things. And then you're like, I want to get on an app and talk to other people. And the first thing they say is, here's a piece of paper on how to talk to other veterans about what they've been through.
And then what are you going to do? What are you going to do when you're in a conversation with somebody else? You're going to be scripted. You're going to be robotic. You're going to be mechanical. You're not going to talk to them like you would to a friend. This
is what I say. I never felt more alone, because it also stifles the amount of connections, because nobody's going to go through that shit. No, it was 10% convert into, okay, I'll sit here and train before I talk to somebody else. And when I got on app,
at the end of the day, they're not going to be a professional anyways. It's not
exactly.
WhiteFlag isn't trying to replace professional.
No,
that's not the goal of it. And that's what I love about it. You guys are owning exactly what it is, and
just a part of it.
It's a part of it. Yes,
just a part of it.
There needs to be an ecosystem of support around you. This is a piece of that ecosystem.
Yeah. But long story short, the fact that we could convey what WhiteFlag is, with medfluencers like you guys, and get the word out that there is help, that it is free, that there's no patronizing language, there's no hearts and likes and retweets. It's just you and somebody else having a conversation like you would anybody on a bus or in a support group. Now, I really think we could do something, so I'm going to be all over you for that now. But the rest of y'all are out there. Keep an eye on Dr. J Mack. You need to follow him on his social media, because he's making more of an impact than just in people's lives in the emergency room, which we're going to talk about now. I appreciate all of the build up from talking about med influencers and WhiteFlag, but I want to talk more about you and your experience as an emergency room physician and how that's impacted your mental health and your overall well-being, seeing some of the stuff that you do as an emergency room physician, because again, WhiteFlag's about people knowing that they're not alone. So I want to talk for a second about let me just put it to you this way, guys. I saw one dead body and it ruined my life. One. And these guys, Dr. J Mack and his crew and people like him, they see failed suicide attempts and suicide attempts that did, go through, and they're trying to revive the individual. What kind of, I can't even begin to describe to you like how unreal that is to me, that you could go through that every day, or, maybe if it's only a couple of times a week, because I went through it one time and it totally restructured my brain. So how do you cope with
it? Does restructure your brain. That's a good way to put it. It restructures your brain. There are times that I don't even know how to really share how quickly my brain can jump to, and that person could be dead, and this is how it would affect me in my life. And it's like a barrier that like you couldn't cross until you've seen a significant amount of death in your life. The people that are in your life are permanent, right? The people in your life would never just not be there, right? And but when you see as much death as I do, it's crazy. But it'll pass my mind thinking about like me losing one of my children.
Yeah,
on like a fairly regular basis. It's weird to say that out loud. I don't think I've ever told anybody that.
Well, people come on this show and say it all the time, that this is the first time they said something. But yeah,
I'll think about that. Like truly, how would my life be if this person, passed away, and how devastated would we be, and would we be able to push through that? And it's they're not very natural thoughts, and it's not just like the passing, like, oh, I almost died when he fell out of that tree. My brain will go deep down those pathways, and it's terribly disturbing. But in residency and in med school, the level of burnout, we talked about burnout earlier, that I felt was really crazy. I remember I would talk to families. I would tell them that their loved ones had died. There have been times where I'd tell a room of 8 people, 10 people that their loved one had passed away, and I felt nothing. I felt nothing. I was so emotionally disconnected from reality and from my heart, dude.
Damn.
Thank God I'm out of that place. But I remember that. I remember that now, especially because I'm a very emotional doctor now. Like
Yeah.
in the moment when somebody truly needs me, I'm not emotional at all. I'm stone cold.
Right.
I'm intellectualizing what's happening. I'm focusing on what needs to happen in a stepwise fashion to save this person's life. But the minute that I get to know that person is stabilized, I'll sit with family members. I'll hold their hands if they're crying.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll cry with them, and thank God I have that back, because I didn't feel human when I could talk to people, talk to them about the truth, whether their loved ones suffered or not, in the end. But to feel nothing was terrible. I felt like Data in Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You felt like the robot that the AMA wants you to be, or not the AMA, the certified wants you to be.
Yes.
You felt like that. This is why we have no mental health issues, because we need these people to be able to have, these deathly conversations. But yeah, I mean, so what, I mean, I just blown away, but what's the process like after a shift like that? What do you do
Honestly,
does the hospital have somebody come talk to you or anything?
No.
Wow. Of course.
There are chaplains around, and every now and then they'll make contact, and it was interesting the times that they have really just tried to pull me aside and talk to me, how emotional I really was.
Who tried to talk to you?
Well, I was in this was when I was working kind of in the outskirts. When you come out of residency as an emergency doctor, typically you'll start kind of in smaller ERs, and then you work your way into kind of the bigger, more high acuity, high volume, meaning you see a lot of patients who are sicker, And but it was interesting because, man, you think that like if you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't see terrible things, but sometimes it's the opposite. You see the worst of the worst, because they are so terribly sick they can't even make it by helicopter to a tertiary facility like an academic center or a level 1 trauma center. And so, I mean, people, not to get too graphic, but people, taking firearms to their head, and eyeballs pop out. And it's just some of the most gruesome crap that you could possibly see. And I remember, a chaplain just kind of pulling me to the side and being like, "How are you today?" I'd be like, "I'm good, man. What are you talking about? I'm good." And he's like, "No, but how are you today?" And he just kind of kept asking me that question. And maybe he saw something in my eyes or in my heart that it was weighing on me, but it was. And I had, just terrible dreams after that. I forget exactly what it was, but I was telling him about my dreams and just how just horrific they really were. And it just there wasn't, he didn't have a specific goal. And I loved that. He just wanted to talk to me.
Exactly. And I hate to say it over and over again, but that's what we're doing, It
was powerful.
You don't have to have all of this training and certificate, whatever it is. You just need to be a human being and take an interest in somebody else's current state. That's all we're doing on WhiteFlag. And,
right.
For that guy to ask you, how are you doing? Or, for when I was in treatment, when somebody would say you're not alone, it's the cheesiest thing. I used to think it's ridiculous. And I would just break down because I felt so
it's true.
alone. Yeah. It's true. And you just needed somebody to, like, you weren't going to say nothing, but if somebody asked you and you could feel safe, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Yeah. And I can't imagine seeing somebody, like that in those situations. Trigger warnings are left and right, but and then for you guys not to have a standard procedure of like when you're leaving, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how much, trauma, not even like, how are you doing? We know how you're doing, but if you tell us what your trauma experience is, we know you're messed up.
And it's hard too, because you come home and you want to be happy husband, like happy dad. You don't want to talk about the terrible things that you witnessed and that you took part in. And the worst is kids, man. We see kids pass away, or we see kids on the verge of that. And it has to be processed. Your brain has to process that. And we have to get over the fact that we don't want to burden other people with our experiences, because we have to. If we don't discuss these things, it's going to take our humanity away. It's going to take our emotions away. It's going to take away our capacity to love our children and to love our significant others. Unfortunately, I learned that along the way, and I started talking, man, and I started processing. And honestly, like, you know, I don't know if you've seen some of my crying videos, but I don't hesitate to cry on camera because I feel it. I feel it in the moment. And maybe like my trigger for being able to cry is a little bit more sensitive than other people's. And maybe that's because of the terrible shit that I've had to witness in my career. But it's therapy to me, honestly. When I'm on, it's weird to say it. I mean, I do it with people in person too, but when I do it, maybe it's something about, you know, my performing as a kid, you know, and growing up in that world. But there's being able to connect with other people and just truly be myself 100% in those emotions and express those emotions and cry. It heals me on a different level in a weird, unique way to my brain than it does when I talk to somebody one-on-one. And so I have therapy sessions on camera, and I just put it on blast to whoever wants to feel those emotions with me. And for whatever reason, it helps to heal me. And so I do it.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. I tell people all the time, listen, everything that revolves around mental health revolves around talking and opening up and connecting. And the way I found that out was I called all of the top neuro doctors in the country. I said, I got 50 grand in cash. This was back when I was a lawyer and had money. I'm a broke founder now. I have 50 grand in cash. Drill a hole into my head to the spot, do whatever you need to do, and then I'll be fine. And every single time they would say, talking is the only way. Talking and medication and doing the experimental things and experiential things. This is the only way. And I'm like, talking is the only way? What the hell? That's interesting. Oh, that's right. The universe, Mother Nature, God, whatever you want to call it, put within us the ability to heal ourselves and other people. So everything that revolves around healing revolves around people getting comfortable enough to open up. So when I paid 30 grand and went to my facility in Florida, it was the first time I'd actually started talking. And that's because they put you in this group and you start talking. First week, said nothing. Second week, I'm not down with that. Third week, I start talking, I start healing. So WhiteFlag, same thing. All we do is we get you all the stuff that's on there, the anonymity, the way that the profiles are set up, the way that you don't post anything public. It's all about getting you comfortable enough to start talking. And if TikTok or your social media or the cameras that you talk into are the way that you feel most comfortable to share your story, J-Mac, that is obviously going to be ultra therapeutic to you. And it's so cool to hear, somebody of your caliber say, talking on TikTok or whatever, my social media or YouTube, whatever it is, talking on that makes me feel better. I mean, that's an important point. And that is that it may not be these other outlets that work for you, but if you found that TikTok does, then you need to stick with it and you need to stay on it. And you need to tell other people that this works for me, because that's what this whole thing's about, using your experiences to help other people. And, I think it's amazing, and I'm more than ever. We started out this thing talking about, or maybe it was before, that Brave Dave and all of WhiteFlag wants me to create a TikTok and, talk law on there, talk life, talk comedy, talk, being a founder. And hearing you say that it's therapeutic, I mean, I'm probably going to push Brave Dave to do it now.
Do it.
We'll have to do a Stitch or Twitch or whatever that thing is where you're together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Definitely collab, man. I would love that. Yeah,
that's cool.
And even like now that just saying that out loud, I've never really expressed that before, honestly, to anybody. Yeah, well, wait, you're like Oprah,
that's
man.
That's two times you said that. But dude, we had Brave Dave. Brave Dave was on here, and I'll let you finish. Brave Dave was on here when we got done. He goes, "That was too dark, man. We got to delete it."
Too dark. No, you're like, no, we're keeping it. We're keeping it, bro. Yeah. No, but there is something interesting about that. Like, what is something about? I think knowing that it could connect with somebody else who has experienced something similar, and it may make them feel what you were saying earlier, which is when you have that sense that you're not alone in your suffering, it makes you feel better. And I think with because I have ADHD, so I'm pulled in a billion different directions all the time, just by my brain and through all the stimulation and stuff. But it draws me closer to making videos that ultimately involve me talking about my traumas, because it has that extra advantage of not only does it feel good to like get this out and to cry if I feel like crying or whatever,
Right.
but it could also help somebody who's struggled with something similar. It's like it's shinier, I go towards the shiny things all the time, but that one's like really big and shiny that I could potentially help other people with the traumas and the suffering that I've had in my life.
I mean,
that's really alluring to me.
There's no better carrot dangled in front of you than knowing that you're healing and you're also helping other people. It's one thing, to help yourself and, go to your own therapy. And we want that for you. We want that for you a million times over. But when you are finally out of the hole and you look back down and you see all those souls, those lost, hurting, alone, abandoned souls down there, your ladder that you throw back down to them can be anything from an app or a TikTok video that you create or a conversation you have with somebody on a bus. So, if you are sitting there today listening to this and you're like, I'm fine, I'm totally fine, all that we ask is just start your journey a little bit. Talk about one thing that's uncomfortable to you and see how you feel afterwards. And, that's what we want. We want people to not only heal, but most importantly, to know what healing is like. Most people, like my father, for instance, Old South, I don't even want to get into it, but my dad, up until about a month ago, he thought that talking about it, you were weak and all these other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with my dad. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. And then, my dad found his grandfather in the bed with a gun in his mouth. He shot him.
Oh my God.
But my grandfather knew that my dad was coming over and he knew that my dad was going to stay the night. So back then my dad stayed in a house with a dead body for 12 hours, wondering what's in the note. And then he goes to school, gets home from school. And
how old was he?
He was 11. And my grandmother my grandmother says, whatever you do, don't tell your father. Whatever you do, don't tell. So they had the funeral and they said it was a heart attack. The guy blew his brain. My great grandfather blew his brains out. Listen to this. When I went to treatment, we went in there under the assumption that I had attempted to take my own life by taking a bunch of pills a couple of days prior to me getting there. And when they said, do you have a history of suicide in your family? You know what I had to tell them? No, I didn't know. I didn't even know.
Wow.
My dad didn't even tell me. Even after I'm going down to this facility, my dad didn't even tell me. That's how a lot of people live. And that's how a lot of people are getting through life. They don't even know what peace is like on the other side. And what J-Mack's trying to tell you, what I'm trying to tell you is just start your journey.
Start the journey.
Just start it. Just, you don't have to go in and say, I found my grandfather dead in the bed. Just start the journey and say, yeah, sometimes I feel a little anxious or, I feel, that I'm having nightmares or whatever. Just start that. You're not weak. Just actually, people who are healing are beautiful. It's the most beautiful thing that you'll ever see when you go into a treatment facility. I mean, that's where it, and, I went from being this, this uber conservative guy in school and only hung out with people who looked, walked, and talked, acted just like me. I was in a fraternity. And then I got to treatment and it's people who look totally opposite and people with purple hair and, pierces all over. And those are my tribe. When I found out that these people were my tribe, everything changed for me, everything. And it's because people who are healing are there for each other in a way that you just don't know unless you actually run into somebody who's on their journey. And it's beautiful. And that's you. And that's the people that I met at your conference, as Brave Dave. It's all these people who are on their healing journey. They just have this empathetic aura around them that you just know you're safe in their presence. And that's you, man. And, that's what I told Dave when I first met you in person. I was like, there's something about this guy, man. So
vice versa, dude. Vice versa. You inspire me, man. You inspire me. You're in the way that you talk about mental health and the way that you talk about WhiteFlag every time, dude. I just get so pumped. I'm like, I cannot wait for us to positively impact people's lives together.
Well, you're already doing that, man. I can go ahead and tell you right now.
I'm trying, brother.
I saw a bunch of your videos, and then I met you and your wife, and I mean, we had conversations about things that had nothing to do with mental health, and I'm sitting there going like, just over and over again, I'm going, God, these people get it. They understand pain, they understand suffering,
Mhm.
and you don't have to go through a whole lot. You don't have to go through what my dad went through, or me, or even you with what you're going through in the emergency rooms, to truly appreciate that we're all experiencing life in a tragic way. All of us experience tragedy, all of us. And therefore, life can be tragic at times. But it's knowing that if you just keep going, it'll pass. I promise you, it always passes. As my boy Tom Hanks said, if you're doing well, just wait. If you're doing bad, just wait. No matter
Nice.
what's going on, just wait it out. Just wait it out. And that's the message to people who are suffering tonight and listening to this. It's going to get better. I don't care if you download White Flag. I don't care if you go look at all J-Max videos and feel better about yourself. If you hear one thing that we're saying, it's just hold on. It's going to get better. This will pass. And this isn't some like bullshit that I read on a postcard. Like, I literally never thought what I was going through would pass. And I want to say this because I like saying it more than anything, because when I went to my facility, there was a young lady who was in the medical unit. They put you in a med unit first. And she looked at me and she was like, what's going on? I was like, I'm coming off of Xanax. I'm coming off of this. I'm dealing with this. And she looked at me and said, whatever you do, don't let them put you on antipsychotics. And it stuck with me in my
Mm.
bones, stuck with me in my bones for 4 years. I mean, dude, I have had more thoughts of suicide after treatment than I ever had before. And it's because my protracted withdrawal and the anxiety I was experiencing was too overwhelming. And then I tried ketamine, I tried mushrooms, and all those work to a degree. But the issues with me are just like on all other illnesses. It's a spectrum of how much you're suffering and how actually broken you are. And I
Mhm.
needed antipsychotics, and I started them in February, and I've never felt better. Never.
Yes. Yes.
Never,
I love that. I
never.
love
So
it.
for those of you who are out there listening, don't listen. Like, it's literally the stigma. The people that you're listening to, even your parents, they're stigmatized. You
Mhm.
have to advocate for yourself. You have to search. You have to search relentlessly. Your significant other's not going to do, even if she's the best or he's the best, they're not going to be able to do what you're able to do, which is totally research the issues that you're dealing with and try to come up with some sort of solution. Because as of right now, that's really the only way. You're not going to be able to just go into a doctor, and they're not going to be, why every commercial says talk to your doctor about? It's because your doctor's not going to know everything. They're not going to come up with everything. You need to bring up and say, I was listening to this doctor. I mean, I was listening to a doctor and a ex-lawyer in a podcast, and he said that antipsychotics work for his generalized anxiety disorder. Let me say that again. Antipsychotics work for his generalized anxiety disorder. That's how you start to find out what works for you. And by the way, there is an unbelievable study of 2,500 people on antipsychotics, generalized anxiety disorder. And that study changed my life, because I called my physician and I said, you know what? Fine. So I'm on, I think, max dose of Seroquel. And I'm so grateful. Grateful is the only word. It's the
I
only
love that,
word.
man. But I mean, you talked about it, and I just want to highlight that you need to search and you need to work hard. This isn't an easy
Yes.
path. This is experimenting. This is trial and error and finding out what works best with your brain chemistry. And
Yep.
I that just made me so happy to hear that
And
this is the right thing for you, and you found it.
oh man, I feel great. And that's my message. I tell everybody, you're looking at a guy who was on the Today Show. You're looking at a guy who created this app, and everybody, and has all these things and does all this. I'm on antipsychotics. Actually, I'm on the antipsychotics that Kanye's refusing.
Oh wow.
So for those of you who are out there saying I'm not crazy, I told my mom I was on antipsychotics. She was like, "You're not crazy," and I was like, "Mom, this is exactly what happened. This is exactly why we're in this position right now."
Because of the stigma, because of the misconceptions.
Because of those statements. And that's truly what and for those of you who are out there, and then I'm gonna let you get back to your life. This has been unbelievable. But for those of you out there who are sitting there thinking to yourself, I can't research. I'm too messed up. I can't even, burnout is, not even the word. I'm so depressed. I can't even open my apps. I'm telling you, force yourself to do it. Force yourself, because you're your only advocate. And this is what I want to say. When you get through it, it's like going to law school. It's the worst shit you'll ever deal with. Going to med school or residency, it's freaking awful. But when you get through it, when you get through this mental health tragedy that you're currently experiencing, you will have something inside of you and an aura around you that is recognizable. And it is I can't even really describe it in words. Your consciousness is elevated to a point where other people who have elevated consciousness recognize you. And you start to realize that there are things about you that the earth needs and that humanity needs. And you're the person carrying that. I can't think of anything else more worthwhile to fight for yourself and fight for, your mental health than to know that when you're through it, you're going to be part of this group. You're going to be part of this solution to the pain that exists in the world. And it's your elevated consciousness and it's your story that we await. Me and J-Mac are awaiting you to fight and make your way out. So please know, if you advocate for yourself, that the trophy on the other side and the life that you'll be living is one that, grateful is the only word that I can describe to you. So take your time. You're not in a rush, but just make steps and take steps daily to try to figure out, what works best for you and your brain and your life and your genetics, because it's all about that. And, watch J-Mac's videos and hop on WhiteFlag and don't give up.
Tell your friends about WhiteFlag. Spread the word. If you're not ready to download the app, we can't force you to do it, but somebody out there who needs this right now.
Yeah.
Completely free, guys. Totally free.
This has been amazing, man. I really appreciate you coming on, J-Mac, and we're going to have you on again, of course.
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
We're actually going to have, when we have our 100,000 downloads, by the time this airs, we should be there, but we're going to have a physical party.
Let's go.
My boy, hopefully they let you off work, man. We're going to have to make sure that we let you know the date and time. But I can't wait to hang out with you again. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We're not going to post anything on social media, right? They won't catch me on social media, will they?
No, they won't know. They won't know. No, but I can't wait I can't wait to hang out again, man. It's, I had so much fun with you, not only at the event, but afterwards. You guys made me go to my first nightclub in 5 years, and it was just awesome.
What a great time.
I was sober as hell, but it was such a fun time, hang out with you guys. And so
really great energy there. I mean, in the club, but just our group.
Yeah.
We were all there for a good cause. And you talked about like an elevated consciousness and like an aura, and we were all vibing off of each other's auras that night. So
collective good, man. People with good hearts, people with good hearts there for the collective good. But like J-Mac said, it's a free app. It's anonymous. Go download it. Follow our social media. Go like some of the stuff. We've got almost 6,000 followers on Instagram. For a social network is ridiculous. That'd be like you following Twitter on Instagram. And we're really proud of our marketing team and our social media team and our content that we put out through Brave Dave. And you guys go follow us on social media, click the like button and follow, and download the app and give us a review. Reviews are everything. They're what people see when they're unsure whether or not they should download it or unsure whether or not, it'll be for them. And if you just tell them, hey, I'm a human being. I'm just like you, and I've experienced life this way, and this app helped me. It would really help out, the mission and the movement all together. So thank you guys so much for listening. Tune in. I'm not sure when the next episode will air. Hopefully it'll be soon. But this has been one of my favorite episodes so far. And, I can't thank J-Mac enough. He's a very busy person, and but he's valuable, not only in the emergency room, but just, to the universe as a whole. I can't thank you enough, man. It's been great talking to you.
Dude, thank you for those wonderful words, man. I respect you so much. I love what you're doing. Let's help the world, brother.